and some of the physiological things that can happen as well, because what's happening in that acute stress is that you need to run, fight or flight. And so when you need to fight or flee, what happens is all the blood in your body, those hormones have to direct all that blood to go to your extremities to run. And digestion is not important in that moment. So all the blood that would normally be going to your digestion now goes to your extremities. Thinking, you don't even have time to think, you got to get away or you got to fight. And so the blood is really not going to your brain for cognitive function in that immediate.
So that fogginess or that confusion in the moment, yes, okay.
And you're not going to go to sleep, right? So hey guys, this is the Naked Doctor Show. I'm Dr. Tammy.
And this is Cryssie.
And we have a, I don't know, fun show.
It's a stressful show.
It's a stressful show, guys. It's the stress show.
It is. It's a show about stress, an overused word, but a very serious problem.
And it's very chemical on every level. And so it's a survival mechanism, and not all stress is bad. And just from a nerdy science standpoint, all the chemicals that change in your body when you feel stress, and stress can be just walking outside, stress can be getting in your car, stress can be environment, it can be chemicals that you're exposed to or chemicals that you're inhaling or eating.
Stress could be part of your job. If you have a very high stress direct with the public or law enforcement or firefighter, that's really high stress. Goodness. Do you remember when they used to go, is stress real? Stress really hurt. What is this word stress that we seem to be under? What is this? And they were all saying, people are talking about getting headaches and people are talking about muscle soreness and psh, it's all in their head. And now we know stress is a real thing.
And so many studies supporting that, and heart attacks and strokes and all the things that would come with that. There was an interesting study that I read, and it was parents who had chronically ill children, really severe things like cancer and stuff like that. And I thought what was interesting is that your perception of stress is everything.
Really?
And so when they perceived that it was a spiritual journey with their child, and that every day was a gift, and you know people like that. I have seen people who've lost their teenagers in car accidents and stuff, and I just think, how could they ever have done that? But their faith is so big, and they believe so big, and they believe there's a bigger plan, and so that's very stressful. But the perception of stress is what causes those chemical changes, and there's acute stress and chronic stress. So, and our perception comes from who we are, where we are, what our parents, and how they reacted.
Yes, and these pictures that we have on our mind of what we think it should be versus what we're seeing. And then we start this negative spiral in here, and our body reacts to that. It chemically reacts to that. So there's a difference between I'm running from a tiger and I'm imagining tigers all night and I can't sleep. But they're both stress.
Right.
Your body doesn't really know the difference. I mean, there's the tiger and I'm running, but imagining tigers all night are putting the same chemicals in, telling me to run. And that's that negative impact that how we see things that shapes our reality.
Right. I think one of the biggest things that the takeaways that I'd like to impart is that there's acute stress and chronic stress. And they're very different chemical reactions in your body. In an acute stressor, it's a response. Sometimes it's survival, it's a fear response, it's something that it's going to protect you. Acute stress could be productive because you're getting ready for a test, and you study, and you're like the pressure of that.
Like before you get on stage and you get that adrenaline rush, and so it kind of makes it a little more, yes, right, I see that.
Yeah, like I write our outlines the morning of our shows.
You get a little excited. Yeah, your heart beats a little because you've got a deadline. I get that, yeah.
And so not all that's bad, but chronic stress, where you worry or you take something and your adrenal glands don't know the difference in an acute stress from, an environmental stress or a chemical, just whatever you're exposed to, or you're angry or upset or someone's hurt your feelings or whatever, that's an acute stress. Your adrenal glands don't know the difference, and they make all those hormones of cortisol and adrenaline and all those things that you feel. But the chronic stress is, I think, what we really want to look at, and that's what can affect disease and states and things like that. So we're going to kind of deep dive into that a little bit today. And everybody says, oh, just meditate. And that just,
oh yes, that's another loaded word,
just
unfortunately.
Calm down. Oh my gosh, don't tell me to just calm down.
Just go take a hot bath. Self-care.
Yeah. So
hashtag self-care.
If you're one of those people that gets even more stressed when
Right,
somebody
right.
says, just calm down, then you're going to want to stick around, and we are going to talk more about some things you can do if you're
The science
that person.
behind it, so you understand why, and then the science of how to help.
Yes.
Gosh, yes.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Tammy,
And this is Cryssie.
and we are having a very stressful show today.
Oh, it's so stressful. We are talking about stress.
We are
though.
talking about stress,
Right.
yes. And before we went to break, we were talking about the difference between acute and chronic. And I like
Right.
what
Acute
you said.
was
the tiger.
actually seeing the tiger and having to run from it in the moment. That's the acute.
Mm-hmm.
And then the chronic stress is the imagining the tigers all night and you can't sleep. That makes complete sense, because even in the imagining, you are still giving your body the same fight or flight chemicals, but now you're just kind of bathing in them. I think in the acute stress, when you're actually taking action, you're kind of burning that off. That's the reason the chemicals are there, right?
Yeah.
To give you the energy to run or the energy to
Yeah,
fight.
yeah.
But when you're having those same chemicals and you're not going anywhere, what's that? Is that like the anxiety attack and the, where
Yeah.
are they going at
Yeah.
that point?
And some of the physiological things that can happen as well, because what's happening in that acute stress is that you need to run, fight or flight. And so when you need to fight or flee, what happens is all the blood in your body, those hormones have to direct all that blood to go to your extremities to run. And digestion is not important in that moment. So all the blood that would normally be going to your digestion now goes to your extremities. Thinking, you don't even have time to think, you got to get away or you got to fight. And so the blood is really not going to your brain for cognitive function in that immediate.
So that fogginess or that confusion in the moment. Yes, okay.
And you're not going to go to sleep, right? So all the hormones of sleep and rest are going to be depleted, all to run, all to fight.
Yeah.
So what happens is that's an acute situation, but let's say you're in a war, and when going to PTSD, you're in an acute situation in a very regular basis.
So
And
that just
now you have
becomes your
acute.
day-to-day is fight or flight.
And none of those things, like your digestion, you're having headaches, you're having all these physiological stressors, that is a symptom that you really need to evaluate, what's going on. And if you have someone like you're in an abusive situation, and get help, that's my disclaimer if you're in an abusive situation. But if you're being beaten every day, emotionally, physically, whatever, you are constantly being exposed to an acute stress. So that's sort of an extended situation. But then there are people who are what we call the worriers, I guess. And that is creating that stress in your mind and when it's not even real. And those changes physiologically just keep happening.
Right, and it's a chronic message to your entire body that you are unsafe. Be on alert, we are unsafe. So this entire list that you listed of how to know that you have stress are also all of the symptoms of a lot of autoimmune issues that I even had during my life. And it took a long time for me to understand that throughout a very difficult childhood, I had moved right into my adulthood with the same internal, you are unsafe. This is not where you should be. Everything is wrong. Message going constantly. And in that state, there are so many, what is that called? Epigenetic studies now that show that when you're in that state, your cells are not receptive to growth. They're not receptive to the nutrients that they need. They're putting up barriers to match that message you're giving them of, we are unsafe, this is not right. And so they're responding to your vibration as much as they are responding, like you're saying, to the chemicals. And all of this is generated initially maybe by outside stimulus, but we carry it on in here. And so we just keep echoing those same messages that continue the same process.
You know, the first time I meet with a patient, I always want to know their story. And they're kind of like, they're so used to going to the doctor and they're like jumping into all their physiological complaints. But I have to be able to sort out, and I have to spend time with them to say, what's going on? Who are you? And I do it kind of, you know, slow, and we ease in and kind of develop the relationship, which I think you should demand from all your doctors or move on, right? But so we go into this place, and if they start telling me that they'll start out soft, like things are great. And then as they feel more comfortable, then they'll kind of get into that space where they're like, well, you know, it's not so great. You know, my job, I'm kind of, and then, you know, my husband's not real nice to me, and, you know, our kids are, blah, blah, blah. So you're in that place now where you're like, okay, how much of this do we need to address? And I've had people that as soon as they have addressed it and they're aware and they decide to do something different, and I always say, don't go home and leave your husband. I mean, I'm not saying that.
Yes, but be aware you may need to make some changes in your life. If you do exactly the same thing,
expecting
you're not going to have a change. Right, you're not going to get anything. And sometimes we are, because we say that we're stressed and we say that we're pressed for time, we get into habits, not just physical habits, but also habits of what we think and habits of what we say. And that creates that upper in here that we just have to get a spotlight on it. And what you just described in a very small way is the shadow work that we talk about. When you first meet someone, you give them one layer of yourself. And like we were saying with a lot of doctors, you don't get past that layer. You're willing to go one more layer. I would like to see the things that you don't really like to talk about that may be affecting this, that you don't bring to the table with a casual conversation. What's one more layer of shadow? You don't feel that great? There we go. And that's exactly what you exposed. You're not exposing deep, dark secrets. Just what are those things that you may not have thought applied to this situation that are causing you stress?
I like to correlate when somebody says, I've had chronic migraines, I'm here because my, you know, they always have a reason to be there, right? When did you start having migraines? Oh, probably 10 years ago. Well, what happened in your life 10 years ago? And then they're like, ding, 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 cause and effect, you know. They start.
I hadn't filed those things together up here.
Yeah. So when we come back, we're going to talk about how celebrities can deal with stress. It's a very type A sort of situation, or people who are, you know, high producers and that kind of thing. So we're going to talk about some suggestions that they have. So if there's Jennifer Aniston, you know, Ben Affleck, anybody that,
if your life
that you
is
like
tight,
or follow,
sure enough, they can do anything.
They can do
what
anything.
They do.
So it's in E-News, was a reference I got. So we're going to share a few of their things because there's some good stuff in there. I say some things I hadn't heard before. So stay tight and we'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. I'm Dr. Tammy.
And this is Cryssie.
We are talking about stress today.
Yes, it's such a stressful show, you guys.
It's so stressful.
Actually, though, when you can identify the stress, there's a moment of like, even when you think there's a light at the end of the tunnel, when someone comes to you and says, hey, by the way, did you not notice that this could be causing some stress in your life? So it's not something that you don't want to look at, it's something that you do want to identify.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Especially before it makes chemical changes in your body. And I think it's really interesting, and I hope the one takeaway that you take away today is that looking at it is okay. It's not keeping it alive. It's just saying this thing happened and then this thing happened, and I wonder if there's a correlation there.
Right.
So do I need to change something? Because like you said, if you keep doing the same thing expecting a different result, that's insanity. And so sometimes you have to slow down and just kind of look at situations in your life too.
Objectively, getting that other person sometimes to help you out with that. If you do have those kind of recurring thoughts that are bothering you, there could be a reason for that. You've got pop-ups that are warning you about something that isn't really going to happen, but you're remembering it over and over. There's part of you that just hasn't really rectified that, and having a conversation with a therapist or a really good friend that you trust is great to help you identify those stressors.
I've got a therapist that's a real amazing woman, and she's going to be on a show in the future, and so I thought that'd be fun. But yeah, get help if you need help. Absolutely. I mean, mental illness is a disease, and there is treatment and stuff. So if you're chronically ill, especially if it's going to something physical manifestations, that is a real signal. And there are actually blood tests you can do. Like you can do cortisol levels, you can do inflammatory markers and things like that, so you can actually see and how your body's processing supplements like vitamin D and things like that. So all those can be stress indicators as well. And there's lots of supplements too that can help, ashwagandha and a lot of different things too, adrenal supplements and things like that.
Right. And then learning how to prioritize things like taking care of yourself. That's a lot of what these famous people are talking about. I realize they may have a little more time than your average to be able to carve out, but boy, that's so important when you're trying to rid stress from your life. Carve out that time that's necessary for you.
I think also, when you walk in a room, we're just talking about that you look like you know what you're doing. You said when people are in a store, you just look like you
I was in retail and retail
doing.
management for so long, I look like I'm the manager of the store, even when I'm not, and strangers will ask me questions. It's just like that.
Yeah, and our producer was just saying that, he goes out places and they know him, like they don't know him,
he's
but
a
they
tech
know
guy.
him
They
because
know.
he's just got this energy that he knows.
Yeah.
And it's just it's people have really big energies, like you just know when you walk in a room. I remember one time I went to see this chiropractor, and he had actually come up with one of those seismograph machines or something.
He had invented something cool in chiropractic.
Yeah, it was like a sort of an energy field. It was like protons, neutrons kind of thing. Yeah. But anyway, he said, I don't even need this machine. I can just tell that your energy field goes out like a half a block from here. And I was like, at first I was like, but I was like, no.
First you want to go, do you tell everybody that?
Yeah, probably.
And then you go, well, you'll have some examples, which and you'll go, oh, you know what? That explains some things for me.
And it's interesting because I know I have a big energy, and I spend a lot of time trying to kind of dial it back, because I use that term introvert to make myself okay with kind of dialing that back, because
I feel like that's unfortunate. I feel like that's unfortunate, and that a lot of us with big energy fields have been taught to reel that in because it's been inconvenient for someone at some time. And goodness sakes, you and I should both pledge to each other not to worry about the energy field being too big. If you can't deal with it, then you can pop out. Thank you very much.
We've all got a huge energy field.
We really do.
And it
more
is that
than what we
process
realize.
of dialing it back in.
Because you have that feeling when someone's in the house, even though you're not hearing things, I know when I walk in the house, even if there's no cars, that someone else is in the house. I just feel it. I know it. And the dogs know when people are getting close. Even I realize they're hearing and smelling things too, but there's a lot about us that we know when we're close to each other, and we know we have an effect on each other far past what our fingers can touch.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I say big energy, I'm always moving and doing things, a very type A. And like if I I have to be very careful, like even with my employees and stuff, when I say something and I'm just thinking I'm busy. My son just this morning, I was rushing around and he thought I was mad at him. And I'm like, no, baby, I'm just busy. I just have a whole lot to do
But
today.
see what that stress does to your energy field. Have you thought about that? And that energy field extends beyond your body.
It does.
It's also in your facial expressions and a lot of those kind of things. So that when someone's near you, even though you think you're having 100% internal conflict that's no one else's business, they can go, whew, I can just feel it when I walk in the room. Something is up. So your stress affects more than just you. It affects your circle. How big is your circle? That's what you're affecting.
Yeah, and I feel like I do have to be aware of that. Not to rein it back, but if I say something assertively, I can appear aggressive because it is such a big energy. So I know I have to be careful with that. So Jennifer Aniston said laugh. She said she crunches something loud, so I think that's fun. Angelina Jolie, she says play. She's got like 300 kids, I think.
So she has plenty of time to play, I'm sure.
Justin Bieber, he said something interesting, and that was to be aware of your environment, pick 3 things. Pick 3 things to look at, 3 things to touch, 3 things to listen to, the birds. And so it just kind of brings you to the moment and says, I'm okay.
That is helpful in a moment that you feel that anxiety attack beginning to brew. Take a moment to focus on some other things, because there's a lot of fear that, that's what an anxiety attack is. It's fear, and you've really got to divert yourself to focus on something else.
Before
so
you
helpful.
Move into chronic stress.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, he said, just to accept that you're not alone. We all feel stress, and it's okay, and it's part of. There's good stress and bad stress, and so would you just kind of take that worry and that unknown with you? That's not good. And then Adele, exercise, and Jennifer Lopez.
Exercise is a big one. Moving those chemicals out of your body can be really helpful. Really, really helpful.
The stress hormones. They even say stress, like cortisol, comes out when you cry. So it's okay to cry, and just be present throughout your day. And Jennifer Lopez actually said, put your phone down and the social media
Can be helpful.
stuff.
If you have noticed that some of your own habits are causing you that stress, then you should address those habits. Again, it'll be those things you don't want to listen. I love coffee. I love my caffeine. Of course, I can't sleep at night and I'm jittery and I'm snapping at everybody, but I'm going to have my coffee. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
some of those habits, if we're
justify.
piling on top, we could really examine and say, maybe that's something I need to give up for a little while.
Yeah. You're saying it's time for a little break, and we're going to talk about a few things that you can do, like real things, not just when people tell you to chill out, go meditate or something, because that's not a space to do that in. We're going to give you some very specific things that you can take away this week if you're feeling stressed. We'll be right back.
I was so excited for Ryder to get home and try this flavor because I knew he would love it. The fruits and greens. It's strawberry and kiwi flavored. He throws it in a glass. He loves this little stir. It creates a tornado. It's all about the fun. Fruits, veggies, fun. Hello, let's do it. Fills it up to the tip top because that's satisfying, right? I knew as soon as he grabbed that straw he was going to love it, but I didn't think he'd have the whole glass down in under 3 minutes. His whole daily servings of fruits and veggies done.
The world of hyperbaric medicine is absolutely amazing. It's been around for more than 60 years, but what it does is hyper means more than, and baric is pressure. So it creates a pressure environment where oxygen can actually get into the cells. I think it should be used in every aspect of healing strokes, Parkinson's, so many uses, as well as injuries, because what you need when you injure yourself is to increase blood flow to that area. I had a good friend with a burn on his hand after 3 dives. It was a 3rd-degree burn. Now, after a couple weeks, you can't, and this was only 3 dives, you can't even see where the blister was. I've seen neurological injuries, brachial plexus injuries, with no movement and complete atrophy of the muscles, getting movement back within 3 days. Welcome back. Just to wrap up a few things from the stress show, some things that you can do to take away this week to maybe start working on some of that chronic stress. Acute stress is always going to happen.
Right.
Good
Acute stress
or bad.
happens. And if you're your best self, if you're working on the chronic stress, the acute stress will be easier to face when it does come up.
Oh, for sure. I like reframe, which is just, accept your weakness. Some of my weaknesses have showed up as some of my biggest strength, because I think when I have my weaknesses, it can make me more vulnerable, which you never want to hear somebody go, oh, sweetheart. You want them to go, me too.
Yes,
I see
right.
you.
Oh, I feel so sorry for you. It's like, no, honey, I've been there. Like, that feels so much more real when someone cares for you that way.
Yeah, for sure. I like the ask for help or delegate. I'm so bad about that because it's faster to just do it yourself.
And it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong when you have to ask for help. Oh my gosh, we're so hard on ourselves thinking that asking for help is somehow a failure. It's not.
Yeah. I like face your fears. You know, when I just had this happen last night. My camera in my downstairs den went off, and I was like, oh, something's not right.
Uh-oh.
And I watched
That's an acute
that
stress.
camera for like 30 minutes, and I'm a single mom, you know, and so it's like I look, and I've got this big bear of a son who's 6'5", and so I'm like, I know I'm good. I know I'm safe. You know, we got home protection and everything. That's why I got the cameras. And I'm like, but I'm looking at this. And I'm like, finally, I just had to put myself to sleep because I'm like, the thought was to go downstairs and just kind of look for the monster in there, you know.
Right.
But I'm like, everything's good. I'm safe. And then I go to sleep. But how often do we do that? That we've created this monster in our mind, and who knows, a wind or a piece of something might have flown by, and that air conditioner might have
But we've
blown or
decided, got ourselves all triggered up about it.
Yep. And so, yeah, that's kind of facing your fears. And just realize when someone tells you to relax, it's okay to be like, I can't relax right now.
I can't relax right now. I will relax from 12:30 until 2 p.m., not before, not after. It is okay to put time aside specifically for you to do those things, though. It is all right to ask for that and start creating some of those boundaries. It's here. I would like to have 30 minutes in the morning that is for me to either plan, to be quiet, to prepare, but it's my time. No phone, no knock on the door. It's okay to ask
I'm
for those
doing
things.
that now.
Are
and
you
I've
really?
just started that recently.
That's
I wake up
wonderful.
at 6 or 6:30, and I like that thing you said, meditate's got that bad connotation, like I have to shut off time, I don't have time for that. But I just spend that time because it's just, I'm waking up, I'm moving out of dream state, and I'm in theta wave kind of still, and I spend that time for myself.
It is perfect time to set some intentions, what we call clear the apps that are running in the background. It's a great analogy, that's all it is. And yeah, you're not going to quiet every single thought. We have a great monkey mind, but you can kind of get a better view for what's important up there and what's not. And then pick what's important, move on throughout your day. It's a great way to get started, a great way.
Try that. Yeah, it's just a little experiment you might try. Just wake up maybe even 30 minutes earlier and just see if you can just carve out that time for yourself before everybody's awake, the kids are awake, and all those things. All right, they're saying it's time for a wrap. We love you all very much. We hope you have a wonderful, blessed week. You can find us at Low Key Magical with a
Low Key
K.
Magical with a K on Facebook and YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify. I'm all over the place.
She has a great podcast. I think you'll absolutely love it.
We go into some of these a little bit deeper sometimes.
I love that. I love that. And you can find us at thenakeddoctorshow.com. We would love to have you as a guest. We'd love to talk about your expertise in certain areas, the naked truth about health, wellness, and lifestyle.
All of it.
So if you have something to contribute and you'd like to have a little coffee
we
table
love
conversation,
to talk. Have a little talk.
love to have you. So reach out. All our contact information is on there as well. So have a super blessed week, and just look at the stress in your life and call it out and work on something different.
Like that.
All right. See you back here next week on The Naked Doctor.
Bye-bye.